Hi, I'm Dale from Glenarley Pipes. Today I want to do this video on the virtues of cane and synthetic chanter reeds. Get a lot of questions on it. We're getting quite a few people using the synthetics now, so I thought I'd better go through and clear up some of the points, some of the questions being asked. Now, cane reeds are cane. They come from cane. Cane's a living, breathing organism. It's extremely variable. It varies in its hardness, in its density, and in its structure. Now, one pipe maker, a reed maker, told me that he polishes the end of cane, he looks at the end of cane, and he looks for the fibres, the density of the fibres on the cane, and then when he splits the cane, he splits it based on the fibre in the cane. And he believes that that's how he gets the best reeds, because he's using the best part of the cane. Now, that may be true, but it doesn't get past the fact that he's still having to worry about moisture and the general density of the cane. So that's what cane starts from. You can get all sorts of cane. You can pay a lot for cane. You could pay a lot of money for there's California cane, there's the Spanish cane, there's the French cane, there's the extra special cane that's only been fertilised with unicorn droppings. Now apparently that's the best cane in the world. I've never used any, never seen any for sale, but I'm reliably told that it exists. But I get my cane from along the railway lines. It grows just as well here in Australia as it does anywhere else, and from what I can see, based on the results that I've had, it's as good as any cane I've used. Now, one thing about cane is that with the fibres in it, the strength of the cane, or the longevity of the cane, my boy who plays the clarinet at a competition level, he noticed that his competition reeds, he'll get a box of reeds, 10 reeds, clarinet reeds, and out of that he might get 2 that he considers are good competition reeds. Out of that he might get 4 that are firewood, and the rest are also rams that will basically scrape them and they'll make reasonable practice or band reeds, but they're not competition reeds. And we noticed a while ago that all the reeds that he felt were really good competition reeds, when we put them out light and we looked at the fibre structure, we noticed that they all had the same fibre structure, or very similar fibre structure. So this guy that told me about the looking for the structure of the cane, there may be something to that. I don't know, I can only repeat what I'm told. So, cane is variable. So, a cane reed, this is my son's competition reed. This is an exceptionally good reed. If we get, he only plays it in competitions, he only plays it for certain tunes in certain competitions, certain band competitions, he would think he's kicked a goal if he can get 2 years out of that reed. His synthetic competition reed, 4 years and still counting. So obviously it doesn't suffer the same fragility of the cane reed. We don't have to be so careful putting in. We don't worry about knocking the edges off the cane or chipping the cane, dropping it, because these things here you could just about shovel shingle with them. They're very, very robust. They don't care about moisture, they don't care about too much. Once they're made, they stay where they are. With a cane reed, when you pull it out of your box, you've got to play it in. You've got to get moisture into the cane. Once you've got the right amount of moisture into the cane, it'll normalise, and then you'll set the tuning on it based at that normalised state. And synthetic reed, it doesn't care. You pull it out of the box, you play. How it plays when you first pulled it out of the box is how it's going to play 2 hours after you pulled it out of the box. It just remains the same. The only variable is temperature, and both reeds are subject to the same temperature variations. 1 degree in temperature is 3 cents of pitch, but all reeds are subject to that. However, the cane reed goes up in a much steeper curve than the synthetic reed as it climbs the pitch. I'm guessing that's because the cane changes a lot more in the temperature situation, but because you're blowing the same air through them, I don't notice, to be honest, too much difference. I find the same, but some people will tell you that the cane can really go ballistic on a hot day. Maybe it can. Now I have a piper, he's a grade 1 piper, and he uses one of my synthetic reeds to do all his weddings and funerals. He doesn't have to warm up first, he doesn't have to worry about disturbing people by warming up at the wedding or the funeral, around the back, finding a place to warm up down the road. He doesn't have to worry about playing at the beginning and then having his reeds sitting there for 2 hours and then having to play again as they go out. With his cane reed, his bum snaps shut every time he plays it on the way out after it's been sitting for an hour or two, because he's got no idea what it's going to sound like. And that's why he uses synthetic. He doesn't have to worry about that, it just plays exactly the same as it did. Now, he might argue that the cane produces a sound that he likes better for his solo work and for his band work, and that may well be the case. So I'm not going to argue that's subjective. However, the advantages he gets from this over the cane are so much that he wouldn't even consider playing a cane reed in his weddings and funerals ever again, simply because he just doesn't have to worry about what's going to come out of the synthetic reed. Now, a school band is exactly the same. They use their cane reeds for their competition work. They use their synthetic reeds for all their practice. When they use a synthetic reed for practice, they get 2 hours practice a week, they get a full 2 hours practice. When they use their cane reed for practice, they're lucky to get an hour's practice, because the first hour is spent fricking around with reeds, blowing them in, putting up with the ones that won't behave, upping them down, seating them, and what. He's sold on these. He still uses these for competition, and the main reason he does that, he says, is because of the judging. He feels that the bias from the judges would cripple him if they knew that he was playing synthetic reeds, and that may well be the case. I've had a lot of crap sandwiches from people trying to feed me up on them when they found out we're using this, but my boy sometimes uses the cane and sometimes uses synthetic, and mainly it depends on the tunes he's playing. If he's playing a tune that requires a lot of high A work, he generally uses synthetic, because the synthetic has got a really strident high A. The cane has a really skirly, thin, raspy sound to it when it tries to play the high A. Even this reed, which is a very good reed, it's still got quite a raspy skirl to it, and we don't want to risk it, because the rest of the notes are play pretty well with this reed, and it's got a fraction of tape over the D and the C, and that's all. So he's quite happy to keep playing this one as it is, and he puts up with that A, mainly for the band work. But if he was going to play solo work, he'd look at the tunes. If he needed a clean top hand, he'd use the synthetic. If the top hand wasn't so much of a bother, and I mean, some judges like it as well. Some judges like that thin, what they call it, a disappearing A. It's the A you play when you don't really hear an A. It just sort of, you pretend that you can hear the A. It's so thin and wispy that you don't even know it's there. Some tunes, because you're bouncing up and down on that A, you really need people to hear the A, otherwise the tune really sounds like it's missing something. So it also, say, depends on the judges a little bit with us, and on the tune itself. Cost, well, the synthetic reed costs more than double what the cane reed costs, but the synthetic reed is sold at a pitch and pressure, so that means it's been manipulated before you get it, it's been scraped in before you get it. You specify what you want, and that's how it comes. The cane reed, it comes how it comes. Now don't forget, when you buy a cane reed, the elite pipers in the world, they go along to the pipe maker, the reed maker, and they cherry pick. They get all the reeds that they want, or they ask the reed maker to cherry pick for them. They get all the reeds that they want, the pitch that they want, pressure that they want. The rest go back in the box, and after all the high-end customers have had their pick, going down the pecking order, and what's left, that gets sold out to the public, out to Joe Hunt. Now that means that you may be having to manipulate reeds quite considerably. An example of that, I bought these 5 reeds off a local pipe major. He's a grade 1 piper. He's a judge. He runs a school, and he runs a business selling piping stuff. So I'd have to trust that he knows what he's doing. I asked him for a matched set of reeds. I asked him for the 5 reeds matched. These are aggressive ridge cut reeds. I asked him for a matched set. These vary in pressure from 36 inches to 49 inches. A person who can play a 36 in our band would not even stand Buckley's of playing a 49-inch reed. The hemorrhoids would be yakking in and out just at the thought of playing them. Even the 36 is quite a stout reed for a lot of pipers. But that's the variation. Now, he's a good piper. The guy who sent them to me, he's a good man. And he felt that range is acceptable. He's obviously of the view that I'll scrape them in to suit what I need. If I don't have the skills, then I'm a crapper's ditch, basically. I've got to find somebody who's then got the skills to get all those reeds pretty well matched up for me. We have these aggressive ridge cut reeds as opposed to the moulded reeds, which are more gradual. The ridge cut reeds do have a bit of a stability edge, and that's probably one reason to use them. And also people like using these for those really high pitch. Some bands like getting up around that fingernail down a blackboard pitch, up around that 485 and that. It's like listening to Cher sing or Phyllis Diller sing. You know what I mean? It's just, one's just such a contrast to the other. But I think they're doing it so they get it heard over everyone. A jumbo could fly over and you'll still hear that screechy high pitch coming out of their pipe. So it does help them be heard. I understand the argument. It doesn't sound musically like anything nice, but it certainly gets them heard. And the ridge cut reeds will do that. And they're quite stable, but they just don't seem to last all that long. The people that I know that use them, they say the biggest problem with them is longevity. Whereas the people using the moulder reeds get a bit better life out of them. But like I said, if that one there, only playing a competition, lasted 2 years, we'd think we kicked a goal. If it lasted 6 months, we'd feel, well, that's not so bad. It's done what it's supposed to do. Now, the elite use these because they can manipulate them to get a particular sound, and that's what they're after. Those people, they're not many. They're probably the top 5-10% pipers in the world that have those skills and that have the control over the pipes to do that. And they don't use anything but cane. They wouldn't soil their drones by putting synthetic reeds in their drones either. They would use cane reeds in their drones, and that's how they get the sound. So that's why the elite pipers are the elite, and that's why they sound like the elite. They just know how to get the best sound out of everything. Now, we have a lot of them vocally against the synthetic Chanter reeds, and I understand the argument. But not everybody in the world is good as them, and the rest of the world don't run the risk of what I think is lying hypocrites if they used synthetic reeds in their drones but then blagged the crap out of synthetic Chanter reeds. Well, I think that's just hypocrisy at its best, and that's another reason why they only use cane. They have a cane rig, and they know exactly what they're doing with the reeds, and they know exactly what sound they're wanting to get. The rest of us, we just want to play our pipes. We want to pick our Chanter out of our bag, and we just want it to start playing. Well, there you go. Synthetic reed will do that. We don't want to have to worry about, chipping it or something as we're putting it into our. I can hit that quite hard and put it in there, and it'll still play perfectly fine. Can't do that to a cane reed. So that's an advantage, that people don't want to have to worry about that. They don't want to have a selection of reeds in their box. If they can have 2 reeds, one of these and a spare one of these, basically they're set. The other thing is that for the smaller bands, for the non-world championship bands, they use these and they all sound pretty much the same, so they get a pretty matched sound. It's very easy to get a matched sound with a band using a synthetic reed. cane reed, not so easy to do that. That means you have to have somebody with pretty good reed skills who's going to be able to manipulate the reeds to get that. So the cost is an issue, but you know, we've had these 4 years still running. So when you think, you know, you're paying between 50 and 60 Aussie for one of these, and you're paying 25, 30 Aussie for one of these, you're paying, say, twice as much. But when did you last hear of a cane reed getting played every week and lasting for 4 years? Never. That's when. So there are some advantages there. Now, from a playing point of view, I don't see any difference. I don't see that you would notice a difference if you were playing a cane or a synthetic, other than if you're a real bendy player. Now, one thing about a synthetic reed is that if you drop the pressure off too much, it'll choke. So if you were playing a 30-inch reed and you let it drop down to 22, it'll choke. Whereas the cane, if you're playing a 30-inch cane, if you dropped it down as low as 25, it's flat as a turd. If you let it drop down to 20, it'll keep running, but it's in another octave by then, and it just sounds like crap. The synthetic reeds don't have that pitch drop, but like I say, if you drop too far, they will choke. They stop working, and that's the nature of synthetic as opposed to cane. High end, well, once again, it's the strength of the reed, so there's not too much to worry about there. Other big advantage is that a synthetic reed matches, once you get it matched with your drones, pressure and pitch, you don't get a huge variation. They tend to vary in a very similar line, whereas cane, if you're using a cane chanter reed and your synthetic drone reeds, which many people are, one takes off a lot further than the other. So they'll start off going up about the same slope, but then your cane will drift up away from your drones a lot faster than will with synthetic. So some people see that as an advantage. I don't think there's anything else that we really need to concern ourselves with. That is, a lot of the other stuff is just purely subjective. Blind testing will fix most of it. And like I say, with the World Online Championships, I think we got from 6th place to 2nd place with synthetic. And a lot of those judges were, you know, name brand judges. They weren't just schmucks that fell out of the corner store. Some of them were pretty well credentialed pipers judging those competitions, and if they gave synthetic as high as 2nd place in grade, some grades, or at least in one grade, then I would say that they really couldn't pick that much difference between them. If you told them it was synthetic, maybe it'd be a different view, but while they don't know, if they're only judging with their ears and not judging with their eyes, the results so far have really been speaking for themselves. Okay, that's about all I can tell you. If there's any questions, you can contact me and ask. Thanks for watching.